UFC 248 had one of the best MMA fights in the history of the sport. And that was not the only highlight, but it was one of the best ones, definitely better than the main event. But we will get to that. Yes, this is the fourth and long UFC 248 recap show. Of course, I'm joined by Jalen and our UFC correspondent and Sugar Sean O'Malley superfan, Blake Campbell.
Hey, thanks for having me. Good to be here with you boys.
Gotta have you, considering your the title that you hold. And Jalen, we don't really have to have you, but we just kind of have you on here for the token. Gotta do it for the token. And we appreciate that. But while we start, we're going to get on into the prelims, and we're going to get right into Blake's rant on Sugar Sean O'Malley. Of course, he had his return to the octagon after a 2-year layoff due to suspension from USADA, and he took on Jose Quinones. Quinones. That's the one. I can't speak Spanish because I'm very white. But O'Malley did win this one by knockout with 2 minutes left to go in the first. Blake, take it away.
Yeah, so this was a really impressive performance. I think it was exactly what Sugar, definitely the exact result Sugar wanted. I don't know if it went necessarily completely as planned. The finish wasn't as clean as I think he would have liked. He even went into greater detail today, talking about how he was trying to land a spinning type knockout. He was trying to set up this same finish that he had in one of his LFA fights where he had kicked a guy up against the fence and then went and did a spinning heel kick, I believe, right in and kind of broke his guard and got him like on the chin or on the cheek. So that would have been really cool to see. But as we saw in the fight, when he threw that kick up against the cage, Quinones kind of crumpled a little bit and did a little bit of a turtle move. So the finish was open right there. He could just go ahead and, take him out. I thought, I was impressed from start to finish. I thought he looked calm, cool, and collected in there, like a killer, really. Just picking his shots, landed a really clean uppercut in there. It was just smooth, a really smooth performance. I mean, came out completely unscathed. That's exactly how you want to go in there and fight, just like Shevchenko does, in my opinion. She goes in there, she executes, and then she gets out. And that's how the best do it in this business. That's how you have longevity. You go in there, you beat up who you're expected to beat up in a timely fashion, and then you get on to the bigger and next fight. Now, what I'm interested in after this fight, after this performance, is who is the next fight? He's already kind of mulling over opponents. I know one of the names he brought up with was Marlon Chito Vera. That's another guy that he was matched up with prior to his suspension. I believe it went Quinones his first matchup, and then Chito Vera was going to be his next matchup that got canceled. Mm-hmm. So I think it would be really interesting to have him give both of those fights to those guys that beforehand had those fights matched up, and then that would prove, okay, cool, this guy is exactly who we thought he was 2 years ago. After that fight, maybe get him a better ranked opponent, maybe in the top 15 at least, and see where he goes from there. Because, I mean, geez, that guy, for a 135 pounder, I mean, he looks big, right? He almost looks like a thicker Sandhagen, really. So
it doesn't look like he belongs in that division.
Yeah. And he's young too, so he has room to grow if he so chooses. But he looks like he takes care of himself. I mean, that 2-year layoff, I think he was 22 or 23 at the time that he got suspended. Mm-hmm. That is hard for a guy at that age to stay so focused in his craft. I mean, he had the world at his hands. I think he had already won 1 or 2 $50,000 bonuses, for performance of the nights or whatever. In UFC, already had a couple sick cars, if I remember correctly. I know he still has that one car. It's like it's almost like an ATV type car, but it's like a street car. I'm terrible with cars, so I don't know the exact.
Pretty sure. But I think you're talking about the Spider.
Yeah, but the point I'm getting, right? Like the guy has the world at his fingertips already. He's already been on TV multiple times. He's on the cusp of superstardom, and he stays focused and he stays humble, and he realizes that there's holes in his game, and this is the perfect opportunity for him to be out of the limelight for a second, for him to just go back and really grind and, close the gap between him and those top elite level fighters. I'm excited to see what his next steps are because I really have a lot of faith in this kid.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that he could end up being the Adesanya of that division, just more based off of the fact that he doesn't have that many fights, but he's already kind of being considered one of the top guys left in that division? So do you think he could be one of those guys who comes in, does about 4 fights, and then he already has a title shot?
Let's see what Israel
absolutely.
He won the interim belt in his 6th UFC fight, correct?
Let's see. I believe it was his 5th.
He just has
5th or 6th.
He just has 8th fight over the weekend.
Oh,
so that one title win, title defense. Yeah, the interim was only a 6th fight in UFC.
Yeah, and the thing that helps, like we have said in previous podcasts, money attracts, right? Like that's the number one thing that UFC is looking for, is someone that they can market, someone that they can put on put on as the face of the poster, right? Someone that they can plaster on a billboard, in the middle of New York and on the side of a road in Las Vegas. Like they want to have that personality that draws people to the fight, that interests the casual fan, and brings them those added viewers. Sean O'Malley is definitely a guy that can I believe he is definitely a guy that can bring in those added viewers. He's
a draw.
Yeah, definitely. He has charisma. He has the stylistic fighting capability that everyone's looking for, with the spinning attacks, with just relentless pressure and precision and power, even for a lanky guy. He's young, so he's interesting. He's undefeated, so he has that allure, of an undefeated fighter. I think he's just got so much going on for him. It's very interesting to have fighters like this in divisions. You want to have these guys stay active and fight, the right guys, right? You don't want him to go ahead and start fighting top fivers out of nowhere, because he has had a 2-year layoff. Let's let him build himself back up again, right?
Yep.
I don't want to feed him to the wolves right away. I want to see him take a progressive step up, and I think that's exactly what Israel did. I think he went from, unranked guys to just really starting to test himself, level up each time. Mm-hmm. And then finally now he's the guy, right? Now it's people have to challenge him. He's not the challenger anymore. He's the guy that's getting challenged. And I think Sean, at this point in his career, he's still the challenger, but he needs to be challenging the guys that are right for him to challenge at this moment. I think it's still a steady progression that has to go forward. And he would probably disagree with me. I think he probably has the most confidence in himself. He probably thinks he could go and fight the top guys right now. So I'm excited. Long story short, yes, I think he could be just like Israel, because he has all of the same flavor that Israel has and that Conor has. All the interesting fighters out there.
Then also another question I got for you is, do you think, just based off his performance, even though we saw only 3 minutes of a fight, is he better now than when he was before the suspension?
I think that he did display that his physique has improved, and I think that is really important. I think that's the number one thing that I personally wanted to see is he's still this lanky, young, kind of frail guy. Like in one of his fights, he broke his foot, right? So that's something that he wanted to address, and he wanted to make sure, okay, let me get my body as a whole stronger so I can be more durable in these fights, because I'm not going to just be fighting 15-minute battles all these times and, getting 1-minute knockouts. I'm going to eventually have to take on 25-minute wars if I want to be the champion. And I don't remember the exact numbers he was given today, but I think he said he went into that fight around 150 pounds. In his last fight before that, I believe he went in there against Andrei Sukhomtov around 144. So not a huge difference, but there's some added poundage in there, right? So some added cushion, I guess you could say. Some added protection, for a better word. So I think another thing he really worked on too was his grappling. That's the main thing with this fight, is we didn't get to see him bring everything out, right? It's a good thing and a bad thing. He didn't get to show us everything we want to see, but also he's still a question mark for everybody in that division. That's great for him. He doesn't want to show as much as that, right? As little as he can show as the best news for him.
Because that's the point you were getting at for Zhang Weili in our preview show.
Yep. The less you know about your opponent, that's a question mark, right? There's no way to prepare for the unknown. You're just gonna have to fucking prepare for everything. Excuse my French. But yeah, so I was very impressed with how he came in, and he looked better in his physical areas, and also like technique. Like I said, he still looks sharp. We didn't have the opportunity to see him, dive too deep in any of his pockets.
Definitely.
Fair enough.
I think the one of the biggest improvements I saw for him is you can see when he first was on, like in the Dana White Contender Series and stuff like that, when he was throwing like those spinning moves and a lot of his like more crazier, more non-orthodox moves, he was kind of out of control when throwing them, which it did have a lot of power behind him, but you could definitely tell he was kind of just throwing them, and it wasn't really controlled. I think he got a chance to probably throw like 2 or 3 spin moves. I think around like 2. And they both looked pretty like controlled, like he was able to throw them and be ready to go back again. And I think before it was he would throw them, have to regather himself, and then go back in, which kind of gave his opponent time to regain themselves and get back in there. But now he threw a couple of spins. I believe he threw a spinning kick and a spinning like elbow, I believe was the other one. And he landed it and was just right back there in their face. And that's what makes the spinning moves so dangerous, is if you can hit and still be right there. And then they'll be shocked by the move, but then now you're just there throwing jabs and landing shots and uppercuts and stuff again. So I think that was definitely a big improvement he showed.
I also like to, now that you mentioned, I liked when Jose, he kind of went for the clinch a little bit, or maybe went for a possible takedown, or just, came in close, right before the finishing sequence, and Sean just took him, shrugged him off, threw him down basically, and that's when he threw that kick right into his guard and rocked him. I mean, that just shows you the kid he's not going to be pushed around in that division. People think he's some video game lanky kid. No, dude, this guy is from Montana and he'll beat your ass.
He's from Montana, though? He's from Arizona.
I believe he is he was born in Montana, if I'm not mistaken, and he trains in Arizona out of the MMA lab.
Okay.
Okay.
He moved there, I think, when he was 18 years old. He wasn't really the biggest fan of school, all that kind of stuff. Was really into fighting, did kickboxing, and then I believe Tim Welch was at one of his fights and basically was like, "Yo, do you want to do this for real? And if you want to do it for real, you can come and train with me." And I think he went down there for like a week or so and ended up moving down there full time. So nice. Thank God for that. Thank God for Tim Welch, man. That guy got Sean heavily invested, and it seems like that's like the perfect, like it's a match made in heaven with those two. That coach and trainer coach fighter bond between those two guys. I mean, they have a podcast together. They do everything, man. It's really cool together. To see. Yeah, it's really cool to see.
Yeah, no, I love this. But at least now we could all officially say that the Sugar Show is back, and as fans, we should all be really excited to see this young guy start to put a hurting on that bantamweight division.
Definitely, he's the guy to look out for, man, and he says all the right things. Even in his post-fight interviews, he's giving all the credit to his sparring partners, to his coaches, to his sponsors.
Well, it's crazy. He has one of the most perfect mixes of confidence, but humility at the same time.
Yeah, he's
something
one
I really
to look out
see
for.
A lot of people with. It's right. That is impressive. Before we get to our co-main and first championship fight and one of the greatest fights of all time, Blake, just a couple more things you want to mention before we moved on?
Yeah, I just wanted to gloss over a couple more points that I had for the prelims. First of it being the first, or not, I'm sorry, not the prelims, but the undercard of the main card. Mm-hmm. The first fight being Max Griffin versus Cowboy Oliveira. I'd come out last week's episode, and I believe I predicted a win for Max Griffin, and that just goes to show MMA math does not always work. It is not always going to be right. They had a similar opponent in Mike Perry, where Max Griffin kind of dismantled him, really. I mean, just completely took him out. And just the word I'm looking for is escaping me, unfortunately. Neutralized him. There we go.
Good word.
Cowboy Oliveira kind of got pieced up by Mike Perry. It was a close fight, but Perry, in my mind, beat him pretty handily. And so I kind of expected Max Griffin to come in here and have some success against the guy, but Oliveira had a great performance. It was a really close fight. I think both of the guys showed a lot of heart. I mean, they both tagged each other with some great shots. Oliveira just, hit him in a worse spot, so to say. When you hit a guy like right on his eye, or like right above his eye on his, eyebrow. It's really tough for a fighter to kind of fight through that. You got that blood dripping in your eye. You always want to be messing with it. And when you're thinking about another thing besides the fist flying at your face, that's a problem. That's a distraction. You want to limit all those distractions. And so I wanted to give a shout out to Cowboy Oliveira, but also a shout out to Max because that's the boy and he fought great. This next fight I wanted to talk about was Neil Magny. My goodness, did he had a good performance. I mean, he looked dominant in every area of this fight. I think he's kind of been a guy that's been written off of most people's books in the welterweight division just because the results haven't been in his favor, right? And he hasn't always been the most interesting fighter. Not trying to knock on the guy. It's just that just comes with his style sometimes.
Yeah.
And so it was nice to see him get in there and have a great performance against a guy that I was actually really excited to see, Ji Lang. I thought that guy was a dangerous opponent. He's a big dude, big Chinese dude. And I thought that he had a really good shot of possibly putting Magny away. And that's pretty much all I had to say on that fight. You guys have anything to add on the Neil Magny fight? I don't know if you guys...
I thought it was great. I just want to get on to the next talking point with one of the most impressive moments of the night.
Oh, yes. Beneil Dariush versus Drakkar Klose. We weren't really looking forward to this fight too much, if I recall.
That's
wasn't
why
really on our radar too much.
No, that's why this knockout was so impressive to me because it was one of the best things. It was probably one of the biggest knockouts I've seen.
Dude, it was like mouthpiece halfway hanging out. I mean, if you guys haven't seen this knockout, you got to go watch it. Dariush,
so good.
Right at the 1 minute mark in round 2, nearly knocks out Klose's. Is it Klose or Close?
Close.
I think it's Close.
Let's be fancy with it. It's up to you.
Let's call him Drakkar. I'm sorry, dude. I'm messing your name up. Knocked out his mouthpiece.
It's not like he's listening anyway.
Right, definitely not. Better things to do. But yeah,
there isn't. There's nothing better to do than listening on the show.
That knockout was just awful to watch. I mean, awful and amazing to watch at the same time.
It was awful in all the right ways.
And just the sequence
knockout
too.
hurts to see.
I mean, it's funny when a guy, you could tell Drakkar really thought that he had Dariush hurt. He was lighting him up a little bit, and then it seems like Dariush almost went survival mode, and just started throwing down. And man, I'm at a loss of words, dude. That it has me.
The most accurate thing, like in terms of people reacting to this, was just the face and reaction of Joe Rogan when he saw this knockout.
And
we all know Joe Rogan has some great reactions to knockouts, but this one was definitely, I think I put it top 3 in Joe Rogan reactions.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Everything about that knockout was amazing, from the people reacting to it, to the sound of it, to the visual of it, to the lead up to it. It was almost the most perfect knockout you could actually have.
Agreed.
Yeah, it was storybook, movie-esque, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
The last point that I have, it goes to just 2 fighters in specific, and it's not. I'm not trying to. I'm just not trying to stir the pot or anything.
You're not being racist. It's okay.
I'm wondering if we think that the Chinese fighters had a disadvantage with all the relocating that they had to put up with during the fight camp.
That's a very fair question to ask, because mostly these guys are in the U.S. They just have to take a little plane ride to Vegas for the week. Especially if you listen to Zhang Weili's interview with I think Darian Noka. No, I think it was Okamoto he spoke with, right?
Are you talking about her post fight?
No,
the media scrum, or are you talking?
No, I'm talking about. There's a pre-fight interview. I forget exactly.
Oh, the pre-fight. It probably was Okamoto then.
Yeah, I believe it was with Okamoto, but she did discuss on how she had her plans to do her visa and all that. Then she got a text from her manager saying they're leaving now. Pack your bags. We're going. And she didn't even know. They didn't really know where they were going to live in the U.S., where they were going to train. And this was 2 weeks ago, I believe. She got in here before most people did. And they luckily found a kickboxing gym
first of all, she had to go from China. She had to evacuate China, her home,
which
her
is
homeland,
a whole ordeal
to go to Thailand. She had to go to Thailand first and train in Thailand, and then from Thailand she had to come to the USA, get all of her visa stuff cleared up, and then I think she probably landed East Coast somewhere, like New York or something. I can't remember the exact location, and has to fly all the way across the country to Vegas and train there for a little bit. And she said she never fully got acclimated. That was what she had said post fight. And I mean, no one's ever going to fight at 100% regardless, but I just think that it is worth talking about. Like I'm not putting anything on their performance based, with what happened. I'm just saying, let's talk about it, right? Let's just talk about it.
Yeah, no. We're not saying anything like this did affect them. Obviously, not much affected Weili, because she still had one of the most remarkable performances in history. But of course, I believe that I don't think it was the direct reason for these fighters maybe not be able to perform as well, but I think it could be a reason. It's very plausible that it could be factor. A reason, because it's no easy thing to have to travel like that, especially on short notice.
Definitely. So on the fly.
It could be. But speaking of Chinese fighters and Weili, let's finally get into this fight, because it was, I said before, I said all over Twitter, I'll say it again, this was one of the greatest fights I've seen in my life, and will probably be one of the greatest fights I will see in my life. Of course, we had women's strawweight champion Zhang Weili taking on number 4 ranked former queen of the strawweights, Joanna and Zhang. And Weili won this by split decision, 48-47, 48-47, and 47-48. This was one of the best fights in the history of UFC. Not even in just, it was the best fight in women's MMA history. But in UFC history, this is one of the best fights. I'll go on the top 5 fight in UFC history. I'm not going to name the other 4 in that, but I will put this probably in the top 5. And best of all, this was on the night in which it was announced that Jones versus Gustafsson 1 will be inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame. And what better way to induct that fight than to have another Hall of Fame fight follow that announcement?
Yeah, that was a really good display of guts and just the refusal to quit on both ladies. They didn't back down. They didn't back up an inch in that fight.
Let's see. Before this fight, I saw a lot of people. I've always been a fan. I've been a fan of Joanna for a little bit. I might have a little bias, but I saw a lot of people kind of disrespecting Joanna, kind of writing her off is some former and some kind of she's just not as good as she used to be, and wasn't really that good in the first place. And I think from now on, the rest of the careers for either one of these women, I don't think you could say a single bad thing about these two, because they put on one of the most remarkable performances, and I think they earned a lifetime's worth of respect. And if you honestly, you can still criticize them for things, but if you ever write them off, any one of these people as a fighter for any reason for the rest of their careers or lives, you're just wrong.
Joanna's only fought the best, so it goes without saying. People, when you go against the best, you're gonna lose, right? Mm-hmm. Consistently, you're gonna go against the best consistently. You're gonna lose eventually. That's how I feel. And Joanna, at the stage that she's been at in life, I mean, she's pretty much been only fighting the best now for the last 4 years. And she was on a little bit of a slide, right? But she's only fighting the best in the world. And exactly. I mean, I was in the camp that I thought Zhang Weili was going to win this fight, but I definitely was not writing off Joanna. I still thought that she's dangerous.
No, you were someone who was actually thinking with the predictions and actually kind of she's still really good.
But I definitely saw I saw the same things that you saw out there on the internet, where people are just saying she's old, she's a has been, she's not got the same juice that she used to. That's completely false. I mean, she is, in my opinion, still probably, besides Thug Rose, she might be the most dangerous in that division still, besides Weili and Rose.
I don't know why people underestimate her, considering Joanna is one of the most technical strikers in all of the UFC. She might not have the most power, but damn, she knows where to land a punch and how to throw it.
She throws fast too, so crisp. I mean, geez.
Both of them. Both of those fighters, that when they were laying punches, it was just really quick and really powerful strikes. it was honestly just crazy how much skill that they showed out there, because they don't only have power, but they have some of the highest level striking in the world. It doesn't matter if we're talking about women's or men's fighters in the world. They both these two have some of the most technical and some of the most advanced striking.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
now,
for sure.
I have a question to ask you.
Yes.
What do you think about Joanna outstriking Wei Li? What is your opinion? So I'll give you a little bit of my stance. I think that, yes, the numbers are in Joanna's favor, but I'm in the camp of when you're actually watching a fight, especially if you're there in person. I mean, that would make an even bigger difference. But just by watching through the screen and hearing the impacts, you could tell Wei Li was doing the more significant damage when she connected those significant strikes.
I do.
What is your opinion on the numbers?
Okay, so if we're just going to talk about numbers, let's give it the numbers first. Joanna did outstrike Wei Li in this fight with 366 total strikes. So in this fight, 366 total strikes were landed, while 351 of them were significant. That the 366 strikes in one fight is insane. How many shots were landed?
366 strikes between two people, dude. That's
more than you get in a few fights.
Yeah, that's like 183 strikes per person, right? And then 366 divided by 25, you're getting like 14 strikes per minute to the face.
It's ridiculous. Joanna had 196 total strikes, with 186 being significant. Wei Li only had 170 total strikes, 165 of those being significant. So Joanna did outstrike her by 21 significant shots. But those took place. We'll get to this in a second, because I thought that I didn't totally agree with the judging. Of course, it was pretty much a toss-up, but we'll get into that in a second. I think because there wasn't a wide margin, because only 21 significant shots, it might sound like a lot, but it really isn't that much in the context of this fight. And so I think Joanna, in the rounds that she did win, that's where she accumulated most of these outstrikes. But in the rounds that she lost, it was more to Wei Li, But I do agree. Joanna landed more strikes, more significant strikes. But I think Wei Li, at least you can tell by the way that they looked, is Joanna got messed up a lot more than Wei Li. Wei Li did not escape this fight undamaged by any means. She was pretty damn swollen up. But no, I'd still give a lot of credit to Wei Li. And the strikes landed. But if we're talking about damage done, of course, we have to talk about one of the worst hematomas I've ever seen. So if anyone has to see Joanna's face, I have the utmost respect for her, but I'm just going to call it like it is. She looked like an alien. Okay,
What is that? What are those?
She looked like Roger from. She looked like Roger from.
I know what you're talking about.
What are those Star Trek dudes called, bro? What's?
Oh, dude, I know what I saw all these pictures, but of course, anyone has seen the pictures compared to this. Joanna looked bad. She looked gross. She had one of the worst hematomas I've ever seen. Of course, a hematoma is. Let's get into the science of
Everyone
this.
Everyone knows what a hematoma is, Ross. Come on.
No, Blake. We have to educate the masses.
I definitely know what it is.
Well, you do, because you're better than most people. That's what you always say. Okay, but hematoma.
Sarcastic.
Of course, I know he is, because Blake is not that smart. Hematoma is a pool of blood between the brain and its outermost layer, and this results from repeated head trauma. So that's pretty much your forehead swollen up. Is what it looks like. Joanna had the perfect image for what a hematoma is. Most of them aren't that bad.
You want to go see one?
Hers was really bad. Oh yeah. When Joe Rogan first pointed out on commentary, I saw it. It was just like this little bump over, I think, her right eye, and then you could see it in real time swell up to her whole forehead. Oh, yeah. That thing was.
It was a couple times she got punched and it just jiggled.
Oh, it looked bad. But both of them did end up in the hospital. I think Joanna actually got released from the hospital before Wei Li did.
But usually, luckily, if you look like Wei Li did at the end of the fight, you usually lost.
Mm-hmm. Luckily, both fighters were able to come away from this fight without any significant injuries. I haven't seen the fights, the medical suspensions handed out from the Nevada Athletic Commission, but I'm sure that
minimal.
That's more impressive than anything, I think. So, hey, maybe one of the things I want to talk about. Well, I'll ask that in a second, but of course, most of this fight was stand up. We did have, I guess, a little ground game. There's one takedown landed by Wei Li out of 8 attempts. Joanna didn't take any, but this takedown, it really didn't do much because Joanna got up almost immediately. This fight was a stand up match. But one of the things I really want to ask is, did you guys agree with the judges scoring this fight in favor of Zhang and Wei Li?
Before we get to that, they are free to resume full contact sparring late next month and could fight again as soon as May.
Oh, so they got what, a couple months? Damn. Yeah, no,
yeah,
they escaped from that.
Two.
Pretty good. Pretty damn good. Hey,
now the question that you asked, do I agree with the decision? Man, dude, I really was hoping to have had time to watch the fight over again today before we recorded, but I
was able to, and I still came to the same conclusion. Of course, let's look at the scorecards real quick. While both of you guys are able to ponder this question. So there's only one round that all three judges were able to agree on, and that was round number 3, and they gave it to Joanna. None of the other rounds were unanimous in the eyes of the judges. The first judge scored. So the first two judges scored this in Wei Li's favor. Judge 1 had Wei Li winning 1, 2, and 5, while Judge 2 had this 2, 4, and 5. While Judge 3 scored this Wei Li 1 and 2, but Joanna 3, 4, and 5. Is, in my opinion, and it might be wrong, but of course we can all agree with the judges that Joanna won the third round. Yes. We all agree on that, especially just from a visual standpoint. We can all agree on that. But I think Joanna, I think she won round 4, and I am going to agree with Judge 3 on this one. I do think Joanna won, or sorry, I don't think she won 4, but I think she might have won 2. These judges disagree with me, but I think Joanna might have won the middle 3 rounds. Also, those are the middle 3 rounds in which she did outstrike Wei Li in all 3 of those rounds. What do you guys think on this one? Let me get your take first, Jalen. While Blake's thinking this, put you on the spot.
I think Wei Li won because I think it comes down to they were both being very technical strikers. Wei Li just has a lot more power behind her, so sometimes it does look like she's just kind of throwing, but you could see every single punch she was throwing was based off of a reaction to Joanna or timing that she was trying to get down in the fight. I definitely think round 3 goes to Joanna. I think I definitely give round 1. I wouldn't say definitely, but I think I would give, just based off of they are both going at it in round 1, I would probably give round 1 to and then I think round 5 definitely goes to Wei Li. I think at that point, Joanna was throwing, but you can definitely see Wei Li was the fresher fighter at that point. She was being more effective with her strike. Exactly. Yeah. Because in that third round, everyone was talking about, even the commentators, Twitter, all of that was like, oh, Wei Li looks like she's getting tired. And beginning of the 4th round, she did look kind of tired. She picked it up probably the second half of the 4th round.
Round 5 she was a different fighter than she was in round 3 and 4.
Yeah.
I don't know where she got that from. Well, she does have, as the commenters did like to talk about a lot, she does have a legendary cardio regiment.
Yes, she does.
Well, I see a lot of, and like, not even trying to stereotype, but a lot of Asian fighters have crazy cardio.
Yeah, I don't know what they're doing out there, but they definitely have an amazing.
They're the ones taking all the fresh air.
But definitely, I think it came down to the fact that Wei Li kind of rejuvenated herself and kind of just kept throwing, and then that power that she has that Joanna doesn't have.
So
the deciding factor.
So you do agree with the at least judges 1-2 48-47 in terms of Wei Li?
Yeah, I think it honestly just came down to they're both throwing. Yeah, Joanna was throwing more, but Wei Li was throwing harder, and so it like comes down to she's landing all of her heavy shots, and yeah, she's landing like a 1-2-3, but those 1-2-3 is pretty much just tapping her. It's not really doing anything. I mean, in the later fights, I'm not saying he didn't do anything in the entire fight, but just her punches tend to add up, and then they tire her opponent out. But I feel like Wei Li was just like the cardio she has is just like she just kept going and kept coming at her, and it was
I
just
agree.
like in her face repeatedly. And I feel like it was just like you can't really give the fight to Joanna at that point because it's like she's piecing her up, but then she's right back in her face a second later, not back naked, not taking a step back at all.
Yep. Blake, now that you've had a couple minutes to think about this, what's your score for this fight?
I gave it to the champ still. I mean, I've kind of been in the camp to thinking that if you want to beat the champ, if you want to beat the champ, you got to beat the champ. And I don't think Joanna did enough to, really have a good point in saying that she beat the champ. I think she came really close and made it such an interesting fight. I mean, it was so close.
But and when I say that I disagree with the scoring, I'm not saying like no, Weili lost. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that I think Joanna won, but barely. This fight, I do think Joanna won, but in that fact, I'm not disagreeing with the fact that Weili won. When they were announcing the scores for this, who I was going to be okay and have zero problems with whoever won because it was that close of a fight.
Yeah,
it really was. You could give it to either of them, and you can make a really good case for either of them.
My thing is, I feel like
Blake, let's get Blake real quick.
Oh, okay.
Just let you finish.
I was just gonna say I liked how they at least Weili was mixing it up a little bit. Maybe it wasn't the most effective, right? But she did get a takedown. Didn't do much with it, but she is mixing it up. I think she went for 8 takedowns, and they were all.
Yep.
I think only one of them was successful. Right?
And that one it resulted in nothing, and Joanna got one pass and got up.
She's still given different looks though, and I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
And just like we were saying before, those punches that Weili lands, she's just a little bit more solid and stout in my opinion. She just the sounds of her shots and their impact just go a little deeper than Joanna's do for me.
She can hit. I would never want to get one in front of one of her punches or especially her kicks.
And because so if it was me, I would give it 48-47 to Weili.
That's fair. And I won't argue against that. Jalen, you want to finish up your point before we get to the main event of the evening?
I forgot. You cut me off.
Good. Okay, now now let's get on to the moment you all have probably not been waiting for because this main event sucked. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. This fight was a total letdown. I don't think it was as bad as a fight people made it out to be. I thought it was a bad fight, but I think it just looked worse considering what we just watched 10 minutes before.
Let me ask you this.
Yes.
Very quick. If you're locked in a room and you can only watch this out of one of these two fights for 24 hours straight, which one would you watch between Israel Adesanya versus Yoel Romero, Derek Lewis versus Francis Ngannou?
Oh shit.
Okay. Honestly, that's not that hard. I'm watching this main event because I'm watching Izzy because there is still a lot to take away from this.
At least there was one good rocking punch from Yoel.
There was.
There was nothing like that with Derek Lewis.
At least we saw some intrigue in this fight. In the Derek Lewis, Francis Ngannou fight. That fight was... I think there were more punches thrown in the first 2 rounds of this fight than there were in the entire 3 rounds of that Derek Lewis and Ngannou fight. That was awful. That was one of the worst things I've ever seen. Please, no one, if you haven't watched it yet, don't, because it's not worth it.
Go do some jumping jacks. Do something.
Well,
good with
if I have to watch it, I'll watch that fight so I can go to sleep and get through the 24 hours quicker than I would watching this main event. But as I was saying, that's a good question too. I was a little thrown off by it, and that if I had to choose between those two, I'd rather just choose to shoot myself. If I'm completely honest.
God.
I think on a serious note, I would definitely choose the Israel Adesanya versus Romero fight, just because there's a lot you could study that fight. There's a lot of there's two just opposite techniques and approaches to the fight by both of them. You can study a lot from both of them.
See, I still think that this fight had intrigue, though. It wasn't really exciting, but it was still intriguing. Of course, Adesanya retained his middleweight championship. He won by unanimous decision with a couple judges scoring this 40-47 and one judge scoring this 49-46. It was, like I said, it was a total letdown, especially after the co-main. And if we're talking about the start of the fight, I was really confused. I think Israel was a little more confused, but I was still very confused as we saw Yoel Romero just stand in the middle of the octagon with his hands over his head, and he just stood still. He didn't turn to face Israel. Israel's moving back and forth. He just walked from his corner to the middle, put his hands up, and stood still. He didn't return to Israel when Israel is moving right and left, and this lasted for like 30 seconds of the first round.
So now I have another question for you guys.
Mm-hmm.
If you guys are Dana White and the UFC brass, who are you mad at in this situation? Are you mad at Yoel?
Okay. Let's see. Who we're going to put the blame on in this fight? I would blame Yoel Romero because
he's the challenger, right?
He's a challenger, and you got and honestly, I want to give more credit to Israel than a lot of people are giving him. I think Israel played this fight. Of course, he fought this not to lose rather than to win, but I can't fault him for being a little timid against a powerhouse like Yoel Romero.
He literally reacted off of Yoel. I mean, what are you going to do when the dude comes up, stands in the middle, and just hermits, right? Just
so you see Israel moving back and forth, jumping around. When you have the challenger who's supposed to be coming after this belt, this is very likely his last shot at a UFC title, and he just goes out there and stands.
If you guys haven't watched Ariel Helwani's interview with Israel Adesanya today.
Perfect.
That is a must watch. I mean, he talks about everything. I mean,
that was on the Ariel Helwani show, right?
Yeah. He totally gets it. He brings up fighter stock. And Ariel asks him, like, how do you feel about, your fighting stock possibly, taking a hit on this one? And then he comes back and he retorts, he says, that's the thing about stock though. It goes up and it goes down, right? So, I mean, with this fight, my stock goes down, but I'm going to bring it right back up with my next fight. It is like that
fight with Paulo Costa. That is going to be the next fight.
He's not going to be standing in the middle with his freaking hands over his face. I mean, I don't know what that was. I think he is.
I think he's going to come out and he's going to do it for a second just to make fun.
But he wants to hit Israel. They have bad blood.
They want to kill each other. Of course, that was a fight that was going to be made if he wasn't injured. But I can't wait for this fight. Hopefully, like in 4 months, something like that. I'm assuming sometime around then. Hopefully, a little longer for Paulo Costa's sake, because that dude looked fat at that fight.
Well, he's out of training right now. He had surgery. He's got to get back into the swing of things. But I think everyone understood the reasoning why Adesanya took this fight. Yes, Romero was on a skid, but same thing with all the other, with like Aldo and people like that, and like Joanna, when you fight the best, you lose sometimes.
Mm-hmm. And we also mentioned this point.
Everyone wanted to see this
preview show. We went into depth on this. We ran through the top 5 of the middleweight rankings, and this was really the only fight that you could make.
But like we've said multiple times before, it takes 2 people to fight, and one person, it seemed like, did not really fight the fight that everyone expected them to.
Yeah. But Izzy didn't need to do more than he did. He did enough to retain his belt. And at the end of the day, it's not about putting on a giant show in slugfest, especially not against a guy like Yoel. It's about retaining the belt. Of course, in the UFC, it's entertainment. It's putting on a show for these fans because it's really cool what these guys can do. But at the very least, if these guys, the only thing they want to do is retain the belt at the end of the day, and that's what it's about, and we can't fault him for that. Izzy played this fight perfectly. I really respect his game plan because he stayed on the outside, used his reach advantage to his advantage, didn't get close to Yoel, and so he didn't get caught in clinches, in wrestling, and let Yoel use his massive power. Izzy stayed on the outside, pieced him up when he needed to, and his leg kicks were brutal because did you guys see that picture of Yoel's leg?
Oh, yeah.
All lumpy. Yep. His leg was messed up.
And really that's actually one thing that Israel said, if he could go back and change, that's one thing he would change, is he would have started on that leg earlier, because that was very effective when he was hitting that leg on Romero. Yeah, Romero, you're running today, you're doing all that stuff, But I mean, come on.
Oh yeah, he tried to
you
play it
know,
off in the post fight press conference by doing the salsa. Boy, doing the salsa doesn't prove your leg is jacked. Okay,
And
you're
then
just
he
moving your
did
hips a
release
little
a
bit.
video of him today running on sand, saying, "Sorry, Ariel, I couldn't be on your show today. I was too busy trying to walk on my leg, like running around in the sand pit." But there was damage there. You can't say that there wasn't damage there. Yeah, he's a tough bastard. He's not gonna obviously he can hide pain for a
Mhm.
while. He's not gonna just
Yeah.
gonna be like, "Oh, I can't walk." If
But
you're gonna prove,
also with all this, I don't want to put. It sounds like it. I don't want to put a lot of disrespect and slander towards Yoel,
yeah,
because although this was a confusing fight and kind of a bad fight, it's the same thing with Israel. Both these guys are amazing fighters. I was really hyping up Yoel before this fight, and I'm still going to hype him up after this fight because you can't totally tank a guy's image with one fight. You can't, and
definitely.
it's not fair. Because me and Blake were talking about this before the show. I'm sorry, I'm sounding like I'm ranting or getting on a tangent. Like I'm really good at doing, because this is what happens almost every show we do.
Pretty
Is what it
much.
seems like. Um, yeah, thank you, John. That's okay. I'm not going to take disrespect from it because I know it's true. But I just have to say, we can't talk and we can't badmouth. I was seeing on Twitter so many people badmouthing Israel about this fight, just calling him a runner and making fun of him. And they're acting like his last two fights, his fight for the interim strap against Kelvin Gastelum, a 5-round bloodbath, where he said going before the 5th round, he literally said or like was
I'm
something
said
like
I'm
prepared
ready
to
I'm
to
ready to
die.
die.
die. Said I'm ready
I'm
to die.
prepared to die.
I'm
Yeah,
prepared to die.
something like that. One of the two.
Ridiculous. And then his last fight, when he won the belt, he destroyed the Grim Reaper. He destroyed someone who a lot of people thought he was going to take his first loss to. He totally outclassed Robert Whitaker and made him bleed. And now after one sole fight that he had a good strategy to win, we're going to call him a runner. We're going to call him a boring fighter. No, you can't do that. He had his last 3 fights. Honestly, his fight against Anderson Silva, amazing. Fight against Kelvin Gastelum, one of the best fights of all time, and will be put into the Hall of Fame eventually. And his fight against Robert Whitaker when he took the belt, amazing fight.
Dismantled
Don't
him.
exactly. He shocked the world. So
And I mean,
don't
another
go
thing
out
too,
there.
like think about it though, with those fights, what is one thing that they all had in common? One guy did not go into the middle of the ring and put his frickin' hands over his head and just stand there for 30 seconds.
It's that simple.
It
It's that
takes
simple.
two to tango. Kelvin Gastelum was not going to just give him that interim belt. Robert Whitaker was not going to lie down and just let him have the undisputed title. Anderson
No.
Silva is not going to just let people say he's an old man and can't do this anymore. He's going to go bring the fight to Israel. And Yoel needed to, at some point, have some type of different game plan than just waiting for Israel to overextend and hitting him with a big shot. I mean, that's just, in my opinion, that's one dimensional and just not the most well thought out game plan. It's just kind of taking an easy way out. You're just standing there hoping for a guy to come and attack you with everything he has with reckless abandon and hit him when he's least
Israel's
expected.
way too smart for that.
That just
Way
does,
too
yeah,
smart.
No.
that's exactly. That is the most correct word to use. Is Israel is way too smart for that. He's not going to play that game. He's not going to get in that game.
Talented. Israel's insanely talented, but people underestimate his fight IQ is up there with the best of them.
And he's
Yeah,
the
Israel,
champion. You got to
yes.
beat the champion.
You're a
When he
champ for a
felt
reason.
that first shot, he said it. He said it today. He said, when I felt that first shot, I knew, oh, can't get hit with that one again.
Nope.
It's not like he got stunned or wobbled or anything like that, but he just knew, don't want to get hit with that again.
In that first
Not a
round,
good
one of
idea.
the only punches I really landed. The first round, there were 6 total strikes, and you all landed 4. But he landed a big shot, and that was really the only good shot he landed that entire fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much the entire fight. I think it's honestly it goes down on Yoel because I mean no disrespect to Yoel. I mean I think it was more
no disrespect
whatever.
to any of the fighters we talk about,
Yeah,
because
no,
I
but-
have we all have the utmost respect for them because they do something that none of us could ever dream of doing, except for you, Jalen. You do have a dream of this, so I can't say that for you.
But I think the game plan was terrible for him. You can't expect Israel to honestly. You're known as one of the hardest hitters in all of MMA, not even just the middleweight class. Just all of MMA, you are known as one of the heaviest hitters. If you think anybody in their right mind, if you're sitting there loaded with a shot loaded, just standing there in place. If I'm not with longer arms than you, just gonna kick you and throw a shot where you can't reach me,
right?
You are an idiot.
Oh yeah, no, this guy wants to play this game plan because it's the only way he can win. Let me play into that game plan.
Yeah, it's like if you're a heavy shot, go into it. Make it a dirty fight. Make sure he's throwing and getting tired, and then you land a heavy shot. But I feel like he was trying to show, I'm not gonna get tired. I don't have a gas tank. It was like if you don't do anything, you're gonna have a freaking gas tank.
Of course. Right, but in Izzy's mind, oh yeah, okay, so I just won this belt. I won the youngest champions in UFC history. And so now in my first title defense, I'm going to go out and play to my weaknesses and play to this guy's strengths.
No.
And let's see how that goes.
I know.
He's not going to do that.
Going to hate this comparison, but it was very John Jones like in his fighting style. It's like when John Jones fought Thiago Santos. It's like he's not going to sit there.
Israel is done the opposite of what John Jones did over his last couple fights. John Jones has been purposely fighting to the advantage of his opponents just because he's that damn good. Israel isn't there yet, but Israel is not going to fight in his first title defense to his opponent's strengths. And we can't expect, as fans, we can't expect him to. And so when he implements this perfect game plan that worked out well for him, we cannot criticize him for implementing a game plan and executing that game plan. You can't.
Yeah. What I meant by
it wasn't even his game plan though, it was his plan B. So that's, in my opinion, even more impressive. The fact that he went in there with the plan A and he threw it completely out of the window, went with plan B, and still came out basically unscathed. Continue, Jalen.
Yeah, what I meant by the John Jones comparison is John Jones throughout his career has always been like, okay, if it's a power shot guy, I'm not going to just sit there and take shots from him to land my shots. I'm going to get the hell out the way. I'm going to hit and I'm going to move. And people are calling him Israel, a runner for running, like literally running away and getting distance. I'm not going to walk away. We've literally seen a fight where a guy was running away and Yoel slept the guy for running away. It was in the highlight. Everyone saw it. Everyone laughed. We all saw it. He got his distance and turned back around. I'm not just going to flip around into a punch. That's idiot. You would never do that. So John Jones has done it. Some of the best fighters have done it. You run away, regain yourself real quick, go back in. It was like he just kept running circles around the ring and was just like, no, stay away from me. He was hitting him, moving, sticking and moving, using his length. And he did what he had to do. And Yoel sat there. And then even when the ref was like, you guys got to do something, Yoel was like, let's go then. Let's go. And then he expected he expected Israel to go stupid into it, just throwing, so he could stick to what he was doing. And it was like,
if you're the challenger, you have to challenge.
Yeah, okay? You have to challenge. It's like, even if that was a really close fight, and some people were saying that you were supposed to give it to Yoel because he sat there and did nothing. It's like, you can't. If it's a close fight like that, you give it to the champ. You can't you have to convincingly take the belt from a champ, in my opinion.
A lot of people disagree with that, but that's what it seems like in judges, and when judges score these.
Once the championship belt on the line, you have to take it. You can't get a belt off of stupid just standing there. And it's like, I'm a really big Yoel Romero fan, and I am really disappointed on that game plan of just standing there and expecting someone to be an idiot. Like, I don't know if that you expect a guy to sit there and walk in, and like even Israel said, he said like we said earlier, when he heard that first punch, when he felt that first punch, he was like, that's not the best idea. I'm not going to just run in there and get into a big old slugfest with the guy who obviously punches harder than everybody.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's not criticize the guy for just being smart and not wanting to take giant punches that is going to make him lose his championship.
Oh yeah.
I think at the end of the day, people are criticizing Israel for doing what he needed to win this fight and not to get knocked out. And I think that's wrong. Like through all my rants, my final point is we can't criticize Israel for having this game plan and executing it well and returning to his home with the belt and have his face fairly intact. Especially after going against a guy who is a genetic freak and is a monster when it comes to fighting. And so I want to give Israel credit for this, to be honest.
Yeah, definite Hall of Famer in Yoel, but I think this was a terrible use of your last title shot, most likely.
Most likely. But fellas, with that being said, any final thoughts on UFC 248 as a whole?
No, I just I think I enjoyed it. I mean, it was a really good night. The main event was
The
not
main
I
card
don't
is better than we thought it was going to be.
yeah, I don't think the main event was what anybody expected, but I think the main card as a whole definitely it impressed me. I mean, it was better than I expected for sure. For sure. I also want
Just
to
for
give
the
a
co-main, man.
want to give a quick shout out to my boy Forrest. He's in the hospital tonight. Hope you're feeling better, dude. Broke his back yesterday in a car accident. Need him to get better. Keep him in your prayers if you do that. Feel better, man.
Hey, we were saying Forrest. We haven't really said on the show, but we really appreciate your continued support of us. It means the world. And man, what you're going through, it's probably awful. And all my thoughts and prayers are going to be with you, man. Get better. Well, yeah, we're going to dedicate this show to you, buddy.
Yeah, shout out to my
Um,
boy Forrest.
yeah, get healthy, man. Have a good surgery tomorrow morning, and we wish you all the best. And we can't wait to hear your thoughts on the show, man. Yeah, we just hope that you make it through well and you have a very, very speedy recovery. Okay, we appreciate your support. All right, gentlemen. Well, that's going to do it for us, and that's what's going to do it for UFC 248. Of course, this is going to drop Tuesday morning. You could, I'm sure, the plan is to also have our weekly show drop on Tuesday as well, and you can catch us on YouTube, Spotify, Twitter, Instagram. We'll have everything posted in the links, and on YouTube and on the Spotify version of this show. And there's a lot of fun stuff to look forward to. Of course, you got to look out. Soon we're going to have our MLB 2019 preview, or sorry, 2020. And also, fellas, it's almost April. It's almost April 18th. We're almost getting the fight that we've been waiting for years now in Khabib Nurmagomedov versus Tony Ferguson. And
Beautiful.
you will have to join us for our preview show of that, because that card is going to be an absolute banger. Okay. Once again, thanks everyone for watching. Thank you, Jalen. Thank you, Blake, for joining us all today. I appreciate your knowledge. I appreciate your knowledge.
It's kind of my job now, so I kind of have to be here.
No, you want to be here.
Debatable.
Correct. Blake, UFC correspondent, you almost have to be here. Okay. So just thanks for doing your job, fellas. Of course, I am Ross, and we will catch you guys in the next show. Thank you.